I've reviewed over 10 different smart locks over the last few years. In the Eufy Smart Lock, I just finished testing it for 4 months, and it has 2 features that I've never seen before. Plus, it has most of the other basic features that you'll find on the Nest and the August locks. For example, it has an easy guided installation via the phone app, full unlock and lock history, access codes for guests, auto lock, and control when you're away from home. So what's my conclusion on the Eufy Lock? Well, the rechargeable battery is awesome and long lasting, and their fingerprint reader is a great addition to a smart lock. But overall, I still lean more towards one of the 5 August lock models because they offer a more refined app experience and they have more features. And if you want to learn about these August locks, I'll leave a link below to a video that I did back in May. But for now, let's go more in depth with the Eufy Lock. First, we'll talk about its 3 design advantages that it has over other locks. Then I'll talk about the 5 downsides to the Eufy Lock. And finally, I'll summarize all the ways to unlock the door and lock the door with the Eufy Lock. Most smart locks just use AA batteries, which only last a few months before they need to be replaced. But the Eufy Lock comes with a rechargeable battery pack that gets recharged with its micro USB port. So far, I've had the lock installed for 4 months, and when I go inside the app, the battery level indicator shows 2 out of 5 bars. It's safe to say that this battery will get at least 6 months of use before it needs to be recharged, which is awesome. Eufy sells a backup battery pack for $50, but I don't think this will make a ton of sense considering how infrequently you'll have to charge it. Once my battery level gets down to 1 bar, I plan to charge it before going to bed to eliminate any downtime. But if I forget to charge it, the lock will just turn into a traditional lock and it will need the key to unlock. The second major design difference is the fingerprint reader. Multiple people can have access to the lock, and each person can have multiple fingers in the system. Adding new fingerprints to the system is easy. Just tap on the profile, then tap on fingerprint, then tap add new print. The app will lead you through the setup as you place your finger on the reader 8 different times. After the initial setup, when you place your finger on the reader, it unlocks the door almost instantly. However, after some months of use, I found that the reader doesn't always work on the first try anymore. This could be due to the reader getting a little bit dirty, or maybe I'm just a little bit more careless with my finger placement. Because I noticed when I place my finger perfectly square on the reader, it works on the first try 99% of the time. But just keep in mind, it's not like an iPhone or a Mac Touch ID where your finger can be a little off to the side and it'll still work instantly. This needs to be a little more calculated on your placement. Overall, the fingerprint reader works pretty well, and I think it's a good addition to a smart lock. As for its security, I don't really know how to measure this. However, it does have 2 security features that do make me feel a little bit better. The first is that the fingerprint data isn't stored in the cloud, it's stored on the device locally. And secondly, it has wrong try protection that limits the number of fingerprint attempts you're allowed. In the app, the attempt limit can be modified from 3 to 10 attempts, and the amount of time where the user is locked out can be modified from 5 to 10 minutes. So these are 2 great security features, but I think it is worth noting that Eufy doesn't have a reputation for securing tech devices like Apple or Google or Samsung. But I think if you're comfortable using something like the August Auto Unlock, this should be fine and is no more or less secure than that. The third feature is that Eufy has a hidden keyhole. Just lift the black circular metal to find a keyhole and use the included key. The keyhole is just a nice fail-safe option if something with the tech ends up going wrong. Some smart locks like the Nest by Yale have skipped the keyhole for aesthetics, but Eufy's method preserves some of the coolness while also being practical. There are 5 main issues with the Eufy Smart Lock, but some of these issues won't have any effect on you. So let's start with the lack of HomeKit support. Because Eufy doesn't offer Apple HomeKit support, it won't work with Siri or inside the Home app. And for me, that's a deal breaker. For somebody who has all of their devices on the HomeKit platform, I like seeing the status of all my smart devices in one place inside of one app. And I'd like to add my smart lock to my end of night automation. For example, I have one command that turns off the lights, locks the door, and turns down the temperature right before I go to bed. Maybe it's just a strange habit, but there's something about the assurance of knowing one command can lock down my whole house and I can feel good that I like. But obviously I could just take the more boomer approach and go walk to the door and make sure it's locked, or I could check the app, and these are both easy options. And if you're not a heavy user of HomeKit devices, this is a non-issue, Plus, it'll have Alexa and Google support for voice assistants. The second issue is that the Eufy doesn't have auto unlock. August is one of the only smart locks that I know of that has this feature. With August, your system goes into away mode once you leave the radius of your house, and then once you come back in, you're put in home mode, and your door automatically unlocks as you come to the doorstep. Auto unlock keeps your house secure and safe, while simultaneously making it feel like you don't even have a lock at all. It really is awesome to come home with hands full of groceries and have your door automatically unlocked. But with the Eufy fingerprint reader, the auto unlock from August shouldn't be missed by many. It's close to the same amount of convenience. Plus, if anything, it's actually better for those with lots of household members because it just simplifies the process. Each member gets their own fingerprint, and that's all you need. The third downside is that Eufy has no way of knowing if your door is open or shut fully. August has a small magnetic device that goes in the door jamb, and this alerts you if your door is still open, and even if the door is just slightly ajar. Theoretically, the Eufy app could show your house is locked and secured, but your door could be wide open with just the lock slid over. The door sensing is just an extra peace of mind and a nice security feature. The fourth issue is that Eufy has a weird syncing issue. A warning message appeared on my phone about 10 to 15 times throughout my testing that said, unable to lock, deadbolt may be stuck. The interesting part is that my lock was actually working fine, just as intended, when I would get this warning message. It could be a software bug, or maybe the motor isn't strong enough to always close the lock fully, so it's like mostly locked but not fully locked, and maybe that's what's causing the error issue. I'm not sure, but either way, it was kind of annoying. The fifth issue is that the connection while away from home wasn't always perfect. The Eufy lock that I bought, the T8520, has Wi-Fi built in, and it doesn't need a bridge, which means that you can connect while you're away from home without any other accessories. But on more than one occasion, I just couldn't connect with my lock while I was away from home. I'd go in and it would just show a loading screen for like 15 seconds, and then it would say unable to connect, and there was no way to connect to the lock. I noticed that this issue only happened when my lock hadn't been accessed for a few hours. So I'm wondering if Eufy goes into some kind of low power mode to preserve battery when it hasn't been accessed in a few hours, and that's why I had the issue. Or it could just be a bug that'll eventually get fixed with a software update. But I'd be interested to see if the models without the Wi-Fi, the models where you have to buy the separate bridge, if those experience the same issue. But either way, I don't think it's a huge issue for most. For me, the only time I want to access my lock away from home is when I think that I might have forgotten to lock the door, and this usually happens like 15 minutes after I leave the house. Like we talked about, the Eufy lock doesn't have auto unlock or support for Siri, but there are still plenty of other ways to unlock the door. The easiest way is using one of your fingers. Just place a finger squarely on the reader for about half a second and the reader will turn blue and unlock the door. The next easiest unlock method is to use the keypad. Just tap the keypad to wake it up and then enter your code followed by the check mark. Or you can just open the Eufy security app, then drag the lock down to unlock, but sometimes the communication can be a bit laggy, but overall it works well. Or you can use the Alexa or Google Assistant apps or your voice by saying, unlock the back door.
Can I have your PIN?
1 2 3 4 5 6.
Okay, requesting to unlock the back door.
And the final way to unlock is to use the keyhole. This is a last resort because you probably won't have your key with you, considering the point of a smart lock is to ditch the key. But it's a great fallback option if something does go wrong. Maybe you can hide the key somewhere outside. And keep in mind, if your battery dies before you have a chance to recharge, you can still get in your house if you have a USB power bank handy. Just plug in the power bank into the bottom and then punch in your code. Now let's go over the ways to lock the door. The easiest way to lock the door is to just place your finger on the fingerprint reader. You could also push and hold the lock button, but this method requires you to first wake up the screen and then hold the button for a couple of seconds, which seems like way too long. You can also lock inside of the Eufy security app by sliding the lock icon down. You can lock with Google and Alexa, and when you're locking, these assistants don't require a code or need authentication.
Requesting to lock the back door.
You can set an auto lock timer between 1 second and 3 minutes, and you can even schedule a time window when you want auto lock enabled. But keep in mind, Eufy won't know when your door is actually shut, so auto lock can be a bit risky. And it's disappointing that the timer can only be set in intervals of 3 seconds to 3 minutes, because I found that the sweet spot for auto lock is usually 5 to 10 minutes, at least for me, and you can't do that with Eufy. Get the Eufy Smart Lock if you want to unlock your door with your finger. The fingerprint reader works reliably, and it's a great way for everybody in your household to have easy access to your lock. Eufy's rechargeable battery is another great idea because it's more convenient and it can potentially save a little bit of money. But keep in mind, if you want that fingerprint reader from Eufy, you'll have to make some sacrifices on some features from other smart locks that I love. For example, the lock will work just fine with iPhones, but it won't work with Apple HomeKit or Siri. And you won't get the auto unlock or the door sense feature that you'll find on August locks either. Personally, for me, I think the lack of these 3 features are deal breakers, but I don't think this means that the Eufy is a bad product or that it's not right for you. I know lots of people who just prefer the fingerprint reader over the auto unlock, and if you're not huge into Apple HomeKit devices, HomeKit support doesn't mean anything, so maybe the Eufy Lock is good for you. So if you're going with the Eufy Lock, which one should you get? Eufy's lock lineup is a bit confusing because they have 3 products that all look identical. The T8520 model is the one that I bought, and it's the most expensive. It comes with the rechargeable battery and it has built-in Wi-Fi. The T8510 requires AA batteries rather than the rechargeable battery, and it doesn't have Wi-Fi built in. This means that it can't be controlled away from home unless you buy a Eufy bridge. And finally, there's a version of the T8510 model that includes a bridge. And I think this is a solid alternative to the T8520 because it'll have the same features minus the rechargeable battery, all at a reduced price. You'll definitely want the control away from home, but I don't know that the $60 for the rechargeable battery is necessary. So that's all I have for this video. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this smart lock in particular, or you think there's other things that I should test in the future. Thanks for watching this one. I'm out.